I'm fascinated to get into this one because
Yeah.
you are taking the Sacramento Kings in a duplex spot. I have a lot of thoughts on this game, but I want to hear your cap for why you're
Yeah.
taking the Kings on the money line versus Luca and the Mavs.
Yeah, the duplex spot is fun, and that's a part of this cap. If you've looked around the league, you could look at the Boston Celtics. That second game, regardless if it's in the opponent's building, you're on the road for that duplex stop. It is a tough spot to get two W's in a row. And I think that first game, they shot like 35% from the floor. The Kings were horrific. Everybody was bad from the floor. Malik Monk had his second game in a row where he was pitiful from the floor. DeMontis was bad from the floor. Everybody across the board, they had a really poor shooting night from the field and from three. It's kind of just a throwaway game. And if you look at the other two games that they played against each other, and they were both in Dallas, the Kings looked really, really good and beat both of those and got W's in both of those games, scoring 120 plus in both. I started to lean towards the team total here, but with the unders and that trend and how competitive and locked in they're going to be on this game, I kind of shied away from that. I'm going to go with a team that can really solidify some positioning here, coming off a blowout loss at home. That's why I'm leaning Kings here. And an overall slate where the reason I went with this game on the slate was as you mentioned, it's probably the most important regular season day of the season so far to date. We know the Suns are kicking off the death march here with these next 9 or 10 games and with the Thunder. So it was either big numbers or really tight games and small numbers. I just think the Kings here feels I don't want to call it I despise calling things must win, but this is a really big spot at home and you get the advantage and the favor of being in Sacramento and coming off a blowout loss. Both teams coming off 2 full days of rest now. I lean Sacramento in this spot.
Have you ever heard my Game 7 story
I haven't.
about must win? So it's 2013, and the Heat and Spurs are playing what I consider to be the best finals ever played. And it's shoot around, media availability. I'm sorry, the day before.
Yeah.
Um, Game 7. Okay, last game of the season. Epic series. LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, Tony Parker, Tim Duncan, Kawhi Leonard, Manu Ginobili. I went to as many players as possible and I asked them this question: Is Game 7 a must win? And the answers were amazing. My favorite being that David Aldridge, when we're waiting for Pop to talk, is like, some idiot was asking everybody if Game 7 was a must win. And like, I didn't know David then. I met David
Yeah.
like later. We got lunch, and now like I love David. He's great. He's a legend, Hall of Famer.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I was just like, oh God, like trying to hide from David Aldridge
Yeah.
for saying that. My favorite was Chris Bosh, who like stopped him, was like,
I'm sure the delivery was
yeah,
tongue in cheek though. It was delivered
it was
correctly.
amazing. It was amazing. Then Chris Bosh was like, yes, of course, it's the last game. What are you talking about? Um, So anyway, yeah, so okay, so let's go through some of the numbers here on the duplex spot.
Yeah.
Um, there's a bunch of trends here I have for Kings, and I'll tell you why I can't bet it, unfortunately. All right, so you play a team twice. You played them at home. You, as a favorite, you lost, and now you're a favorite again. Those teams all time, and these are all games since 2021 when they started the duplex series.
Yep.
41 and 16 straight
Lights
up,
out.
72%.
Yep. Lights out.
Uh, 34, 22, and 1 ATS at 61%. They kill in the
Yeah.
spot. So like it I think a lot of it just has to do with beating a team twice is hard. Beating a team twice in one building is really hard. And most of the time, even if you are a big, especially if that team is better than you and so favorited. Now that's the question mark here, is whether the Kings are better. But I do think that's like a really strong trend. I have some others to help you make you feel better, Sean. The Mavericks made a absolute just metric ton of threes in that last game. They absolutely lit them up. They made more than 20 threes in that last game. Since 2013, when a team makes 20 threes in the following game, they are 37 and 106 for just 25% straight up, and they are just 39% ATS. Opponents of those teams are 87, 55, and 1 at 61% against the spread, facing a team that made 20 plus threes in the previous game. How about this? The Kings this season have been one of the best squads after a loss. They are 19 and 10 straight up after a loss, 18 and 11, 62% ATS coming off of a loss. So all of the trends are here. I think that everyone, like, that game the other night was one of those where it's like the Mavericks fans were just like losing their mind, like, yeah, like we're coming, like, yeah. And I'm like, guys, if you lose on Friday, you still lose tiebreaker. And
Yeah.
like, again, both teams were in a bad rest spot. The Kings were in a worse one. And now you got to face them on normal rest in the same building with them pissed off. So
On a Friday night,
on a Friday night
all that
at the
stuff, all
Beam.
that stuff matters. Yeah, man. I mean, they knocked there. They had 22 threes. The
Yep.
Dallas Mavericks were on fire. It was one of those games. They were up early, like 35, and it was like, yeah, this is done. Throw this one out. Sacramento couldn't hit anything, and Dallas was hitting everything. And it was almost like, yeah, we'll see you fucking guys on Friday. So, yeah, I think this is, if with the duplex spot and how well Sacramento comes off a loss and just the matchup being favored again, it's interesting too, Matt, because in a spot like this, I feel like the Kings ball this up and throw it away, but Dallas kind of feels good about it. Like I told you, we were like, man, we're the better team. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
Like, you
yeah.
just saw it. We just showed up here and blew their doors off. Like, what do you got? Yeah, we'll show up Friday and everything will be just as good. But if they don't shoot it at a 56% clip from three, it might get a little different. So yeah, I like the Kings here.
My look, every lean in me is like Kings. Like, I think like King alt lines. Like, that's what I want right here.
Yeah.
I,
You
I'm
seeing Luca's face when you close your eyes?
here's my problem.
Kyrie's face when you
Not that, no, it's not even that. It's not even that. It's really not, because I think the Kings are probably a little underrated. The fucking model. And I don't, so here's the thing. I have kind of been like, look, I'm not going to rely on the model as much in the back half of the season, definitely not in March. I want to play trends and I want to play spot plays,
Right.
right? The problem is when I've done that and I've faded the model, like, the model's been right. And I always say that the best thing about having a model is not that it finds you plays that you want to take, it finds you spots that you should stay away from.
Yeah, your moral
And
compass.
yeah, and my numbers are still like, no, this should be Mavericks -2 on full rest. Like, this should be Mavericks are a better team. A lot of that's because like the Kings don't pop really well in my numbers. They haven't for 2 seasons. I think it's not entirely wrong based off of team strength. But I do think this is gonna be a hell of a game. I do lean heavy. I am absolutely endorsing Sean's pick. I wish I could bet it. I can't get there because of the model number. But I do. If nothing else, my play, like, I think the money line's a great play here at -120. Don't screw around with the spread. Just take them to win this game. And this is the biggest game of the Kings season.